You only have 9 hours. Among you, you only have 9 persons, and you need to find 9 doors. Now, if you're a normal person, you'd be thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? But if you either know what I'm talking about, or just read the title of the video, you'd know. Tonight, we're going to talk about 9 persons, 9 hours, and 9 doors. This game has become a recent favorite of mine. I can't say why, but one night in late July, I had some birthday money left over and decided to splurge on the PS4 store. After some looking around, I settled on the Nonary games, which to my surprise is actually 2 games, 999 and Virtue's Last Reward. We'll look at Virtue's Last Reward at some other date, but for now, I was pleasantly surprised with how much I love 999. This game is something special, so with no further delay, let's begin. Our story begins with a man named Kotaro Uchotsuki, who wanted to create a new type of visual novel that can appeal to a wider audience. While brainstorming this idea, he was working on another game known as 428 Shibuya Scramble. This game served as a basis where the player needed to solve puzzles that are integrated into the story to progress. Mr. Kotaro was also a very big advocate of browser-based escape the room games. So with both of these combined, they served as the basis for 999. With these ideas in mind, he was approached by Spike Chunsoft to make a new visual novel on the DS, so in 2008, development on 999 began. In Kotaro's own words, the inspiration for the story came from, where do mankind's inspirations come from? When he was thinking about the question, he decided to do some research, and his results were successful, because he found a British book by British author Rupert Sheldrake about the morphogenic fields. This idea intrigued him so much that it eventually became the main theme of the story. To make a very complicated explanation simple, the morphogenic field is a very basic form of telepathy. This idea helped Kotaro develop the idea of the Esper characters, which are characters that can use the morphogenic field. When it came to writing the story, he chose to write from the ending to right to the top. I mean, you do you, mate. Even the character designs helped develop the story, as certain scenes were altered to match illustrations. However, there were times where the alternate was true. In an original draft, each character was handcuffed together, and forced to act as a single unit rather than a person. Some of the higher-ups at Spike Chunsoft didn't like this idea and made Kotaro rewrite the story without this. With 999 being a hybrid visual novel / escape the room game, the escape rooms were added to help give the player the sense of aha feeling, and personally I love those aha, but more on the escape rooms later. After everything in development stage was completed, 999 was released on December 10, 2009 to positive reception for its use of puzzles and story. Surprisingly though, the game had underperformed in Japan, while in America, the game fared a lot better. That's actually pretty weird because visual novels are far more popular in Japan than they are in the West. While 999 was still a bit of a cult classic, it was given another chance at life with a 2017 remaster that added high resolution and voice acting. This remaster was included in a 2-pack bundle with a port of Virtue's Last Reward, which was called Zero Escape, the Nonary games. This bundle was released on PS4, PlayStation Vita, and Steam. This will also be the version of the game that I'll be reviewing tonight for the quality of life improvements and for it being the newest version of the game.
Yes, right. Burgers, the fries, a shake or a friend. If you're hungry, simply line up at the end. Come on, people, gather round. We got everything.
Alright guys, get ready because this will be a very long story segment. So without further ado, let's start from the top. On November 21st, 2027, a normal college student by the name of Junpei awakes in a small metallic room. To Junpei, it appears to be some sort of ship. Junpei also notices that a small metallic bracelet is wrapped around his wrist and with number 5 on it. Junpei's last memory was of him entering the college dorm and being abducted by a man in a gas mask. After he remembers this, a window bursts in his room and it starts filling the room with water. Junpei quickly solves the first escape room and escapes his room before he drowns. Junpei finds his way to the upper deck of the ship and meets up with the 8 other people who have metallic bracelets on their wrists. Among the group of 8, a close childhood friend of Junpei's, Akane Kurashiki, is there. Junpei hasn't seen Akane since grade school, and they have a bit of a touching moment before it's cut too short by the loudspeakers. The man behind the loudspeakers introduces himself as Zero. Zero informs a group of the Nonary game, which they will be participating in. The Nonary game is a game where a group of 9 people all have a bracelet on them that has a number of 1 through 9. There are also 9 doors in the building with number 1 through 9 on them. To enter these doors, a group of 3 to 5 participants must have the number on their bracelets equal digital root of the numbers on the door. Complicated? Well, let me use an example. If 3 people with the bracelet numbers 2, 5, and 7 wanted to go through the number 5 door, they could, because 2 plus 5 plus 7 equals 14, and the digital root of 14 is 5, because 1 plus 4 is 5. Get it? Good. Once the group of people scans their bracelets on the red, they have 90 seconds to run inside and find the dead and scan that. If they fail, the bombs in their small intestines will explode and kill them. The group also only has 9 hours to escape, for if they fail, they will drown in the sinking ship they are trapped on. Once that is revealed, Zero leaves and leaves the group alone. One by one, they all introduce themselves and give themselves nicknames so Zero doesn't get any more information on them. I think these characters are some of the best written for almost any video game period. They all have distinctive personalities and every one of them is hiding secrets, so watch out. Alright, here we go. Starting with the 1 bracelet, we have Ace, who gives us a nice grandfather vibe. Snake, who has a 2 bracelet and he is blind and has a fake left arm. Santa has the 3 bracelet and his character just being a smartass. Clover has the 4 bracelet and she is the younger sister of Snake. Junpei has a 5 bracelet and he doesn't have a codename because Akane accidentally revealed it to the group. Oops. Akane Kurashiki has a 6 bracelet on her codename is June. 7 has a 7 bracelet and he is the best character in the game. Lotus has the 8 bracelet and she has boobies. And then there's this other guy who has the 9 bracelet, but before he reveals his codename, he takes Clover hostage by the 5 door and forces her to scan her bracelet on the red. Then he does the same and forces Ace to scan his bracelet as well. With these 3 bracelets scanned and the digital root of 5, he can enter the room. Once he enters the room, he starts panicking because he cannot activate the dead. While the 9th man met the requirements of opening the 5 door, he did not meet the requirements of to activate the dead. Every member in the group that enters the door must scan their bracelet on the red and the dead. Since the 9 man went in alone without Ace and Clover, he couldn't activate the dead, and this led to his early demise. Now with the remaining 8 completely understand the rules, they need to split up and enter the 4 and 5 door, which has been presented to them. The player can choose to go whatever door they want, and depending on what door they choose, they get different experience. You can go with Snake and 7 through the 5 door, or you can go through the 4 door Lotus, Santa, and June. I mean, it's obvious we go with my boy 7 through the 5 door. Come on, it's not like we really had a choice. But alas, for plot reasons, we will go through the 4 door Lotus, June, and Santa. Once through the 4 door, the group activates the dead and finds themselves in the 2nd class cabin of the ship. If certain decisions get made, Junpei will learn about the morphic resonance communication. To make another long explanation short, basically it's having information travel telepathically to the world without anyone knowing. After escaping the 2nd class cabin, the group finds themselves in the kitchen, and Santa, June, and Junpei get locked in the freezer. Well, shit. In the freezer, June explains to Junpei about Ice 9. God damn, another explanation. Yeah, that'll be a running theme in the video. They do this a lot in the game. To make another long explanation short, Ice 9 is a liquid that will stay frozen at room temperature. Once out of the freezer and into the pantry, June explains to Junpei about the mysterious Alice. Alice is supposedly an Egyptian girl whose body was made of Ice 9 and she, quote, died. Her body never rotted. It was reported that Alice and her coffin were aboard the Titanic. After all of those explanations wrapped in an escape room are told, the group escapes the kitchen and regroups with the other group that went in the 5 door in the hospital room. The group notices that the Reds aren't working, so they decide to take an hour to try and find the parts for the Reds. Junpei and June come up fruitless, so they decide to go back to the hospital room where they find the Reds fully functional. Everyone gets questioned until the group realizes that Snake is nowhere to be seen. They all panic and try to search for him, but again, the results are fruitless. With time dwindling, the group needs to move on without Snake. When coming to decide who goes through what door, right now we have the 3, 7, and 8 door, the group realizes that no matter what combination of people they have, at least one person has to be left behind. After the group decides to take a vote on who they think should be left behind, Ace volunteers to be left behind. This immediately met with June refusing to let this happen, but Ace actually injects himself with a drug known as sulfuryl beta. Now with Ace unconscious and Snake missing from the group, I decide that 7, Clover, and Junpei will go through the 7 door, June, Lotus, and Santa will go through the 8 door, and no one's going through the 3 door. 7, Clover, and Junpei successfully activate the red, enter the 7 door, and activate the dead. They enter the operating room and solve the puzzle and escape. Sorry, nothing really plot important happens there. Once out of the operating room, 7, Clover, and Junpei find their way back to the hospital room and meet up with June, Santa, Lotus, and a conscious Ace. Ace reveals to the group that he suspected that all 3 doors would lead back here so everyone can get through the 9 door. That's why he volunteered to be left behind. Still worried about the whereabouts of Snake, Clover pleads the group to split up so she can explore the 3 door for him. Clover, Ace, and 7 enter the 3 door while Junpei, June, Santa, and Lotus explore the ship for the next 7 numbered doors. 7, Clover, and Ace find out that Snake's corpse was behind the 3 door and it seemed like he entered the room alone and blew up from not being able to activate the dead. Clover, distraught over losing her brother, challenges everyone on who threw Snake in the 3 door because 3 places are required to open any door. With time running low and no one answering Clover, the group needs to enter the next 7 numbered doors, which this time are spread among the entire ship. The doors this time include the 1, the 2, and the 6 door. Again, for plot important reasons, Junpei decides to go through the 6 door with Ace and Santa. After successfully activating both the red and the dead, Ace, Santa, Junpei, and June enter the steam engine room, and immediately after entering, June comes down with fatigue. The group implores that she rest while Ace, Santa, and Junpei open the door to get out of the steam engine room. Before escaping the steam engine room, Junpei notices that Santa looking at a picture of a little girl, and Santa tells Junpei that that's his little sister. After explaining the story of Santa and Krampus, Santa questions himself and asks if he is the good or bad Santa for his little sister. After that conversation, Ace, Santa, Junpei, and June open the door to the cargo room and begin searching that room for an escape. While searching for an escape, Santa mentions to Junpei that Ace is the owner of a pharmaceutical company known as Cradle Pharmaceutical. And in the same exchange, Santa tells Junpei that he thinks that Ace is suffering from product nausea because he is struggling to do a puzzle that includes a picture of everybody's face. Almost immediately after this conversation, Santa and Junpei find a golden revolver inside of a coffin. Both agree that it would be best to leave it there. The group opens the door out of the cargo room and finds their way to the chapel where they find the number 9 door. Actually, there's 2 number 9 doors. Mission accomplished, right? Well, wrong. The current people with bracelets that are present are Ace with the 1 bracelet, Santa with the 3, Junpei with the 5, and June with the 6. 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 6 equals 15. 1 plus 5 equals 6. That's not 4, so all 4 of them cannot enter the room. However, there is one combination among them that does work. 1 plus 3 plus 5 equals 9. Ace, Santa, and Junpei can escape, but they'd have to leave not only Clover, 7, and Lotus behind, but also June. Obviously, the group shoots down this idea because none of them wanted to leave June behind. So instead, the group decides to head back to the central staircase, and there they meet up with 7 and Lotus, who said Clover has gone missing. With time left to spare, the group splits up to search for Clover. Junpei and June end up searching the hospital room again, and they think to go behind the number 3 door. Once inside, they see Snake's body, and Junpei notices that one of the bones sticking in Snake's left arm. Then he suddenly remembers Clover telling him in the captain's room that Snake has a fake left arm. Whoa. When did this happen? Junpei didn't go in the captain's room with Clover, he went in the steam engine room with Ace, Santa, and June. Okay, remember the morphogenic field from earlier? Well, in a different timeline, Junpei went through the one door with Clover and Ace, and then earlier, Clover told Junpei about the false arm. So back in our original timeline, Junpei remembered this conversation because, surprise, he's an Esper. Again, an Esper is a person that can access the morphogenic field. Nonetheless, he treats his memory as real and he tells June and Snake he is still alive. With this information, they continue their search for Clover to find her and tell her that Snake is alive. They find Clover's body in the first-class bathroom and note in her hand that gives Junpei the combination in the safe in the same room. The contents inside shade some light on Zero's true motives and behind the killing game. 9 years ago, another notary game was held and the man behind it was Gentaro Hongao, or the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical, aka Ace. With all this knowledge combined, Junpei puts a plan together to ask Ace if this is true. So later in the hospital room, Junpei tells Ace that Santa and him swap clothes and that Junpei is really Santa. Junpei said it's a lie and they didn't actually change places. He did this to make Ace confess he has propagnosia. Now that Ace has admitted that he has propagnosia, Junpei tells the group that the Snake behind the 3-door is a fake and that it's plausible that Ace intended to kill Snake, but due to his condition, he couldn't realize that Snake he killed was a fake. You may be asking, wait, how could Ace open the 3-door with only 2 bracelets? Well, it turns out that Ace stole the 9 bracelet from the 9th man's corpse. Now he has 3 bracelets, and since 1 + 2 + 9 = 12, and 1 + 2 = 3, Ace could open the 3-door, throw Snake's body behind it, and wait 90 seconds for him to explode. To avoid any confrontation from the group, Ace pulls out the golden revolver from the cargo room and takes Lotus hostage. While this is happening, Ace not only does admit to everything, he also admits to killing the 9th man. Ace, the 9th man, the Snake decoy, and the captain of the ship who was killed in the captain's room and we had to skip, were all behind the original notary game. Ace killed all 3 of those to keep his identity a secret. He killed the captains in the captain's room, the Snake decoy by throwing him behind the 3-door, and he killed the 9th man by telling him that the bracelets work differently than they did in the first notary game. Ace essentially gave the 9th man a little push to get himself killed so he can protect his identity and take his 9 bracelet. This explains how the 9 bracelet is a very important tool for the notary game because the 9 can be added to any number and not change the digital root. So whoever had the 9 bracelet can go in any group they want without having to change the digital root. After explaining all this, Ace makes his escape with Lotus still being held hostage. Knowing that Ace has the bracelets he needs to open the 9 door, the remaining participants at this point, which are Santa, Junpei, June, and 7, chase after him. However, Santa and June stop short because June starts feeling feverish. So in pursuit, 7 and Junpei make their way to the chapel to find an activated red. It seems like Ace managed to make his escape, but after they realize this, they hear a knocking noise come from the coffin in the middle of the chapel. 7 tells Junpei to use the safe combination on the lock to the coffin. Surprisingly, it works, and the coffin door opens and inside is Snake, in weird cult robes. Don't worry, for some reason these robes will get explained and what they are in a future game, because that needed a callback. Anyway, now with Snake by their side, Junpei, 7, and Snake still need a way to get through the 9 door. Unfortunately, the digital root that the 3 of them have is 5, not 9. Until 7 mentions that he grabbed the 0 bracelet from Clover's corpse in the first-class bathroom, not telling Snake about her death to keep him calm and avoid any mental breakdowns. With the 0 bracelet by the side, the group now has a digital root that would open the door. 0 + 2 + 7 = 9. They don't plan on leaving Junpei behind though, but they check to see if the 0 bracelet actually works. So they enter all 3 of those numbers on the red to see if it works. However, the door is not open. The red did read the 0 though, that means the 0 is a number and can work. After having 7 Junpei in the 0 bracelet scanned, the red opens. This means that the 0 bracelet isn't actually 0, rather a 6. Once they figure this out, the group hears the sound of water flowing and start panicking because the only way to escape is through the 9 door. If you do that though, either Junpei or Snake have to be left behind. Snake doesn't seem to be worried though because he just tells 7 and Junpei to go on ahead because he has a plan. After they go through the 9 door and out get the dead, it's real that Snake took off his left arm so he didn't have to avoid scanning the dead. 7, Snake, and Junpei find themselves in the incinerator where they catch up to Ace and Lotus. Ace still has Lotus held hostage, and with Snake, Junpei, and 7 surprised, they enter the incinerator and it turns on. They have about 9 minutes to get out before the incinerator fully turns on. Ace makes a comment on how it would be impossible for Snake, Junpei, and 7 to go through the 9 door. And that's if they maybe use Clover's bracelet. Snake reacts in a shocked manner as Ace explains that he killed Clover, something that 7 and Junpei neglected to tell him. Oops. Then Ace weirdly describes what he felt when he stabbed Clover just to piss Snake off. Snake says that he will kill Ace as both 7 and Junpei try to talk him out of it. However, to no avail, Snake lunges towards the taunting Ace as Ace shoots him. However, with this opening Snake provided, it has allowed Lotus to break away and rejoin Junpei and 7. Ace then points his revolver back at Junpei, 7, and Lotus, demanding that Lotus scan her bracelet on the 9 door in the incinerator. By the way, there's a third 9 door. This tells a goddamn lie, there's actually 11 doors. Anyway, as Ace taunts Junpei, 7, and Lotus, Snake gets back up and lunges towards Ace again, this time forcing Ace to use the last 5 bullets in his revolver to shoot him. Somehow, after taking 6 revolver shots to the chest, Snake is still alive and grabs a hold of Ace and sends both of them to die in the incinerator. Junpei, 7, and Lotus plead to Snake to leave the incinerator with them so he can live, but he refuses. To atone for his sins of not being able to save Clover when she needed him, Snake will die with her killer in the incinerator. With 1 minute remaining, Junpei, 7, and Lotus leave Snake and Ace behind. After hearing that Snake and Ace burn alive, Junpei heads back to the boat to get Santa and June. After searching the entire boat again, Junpei finds himself back in the chapel with a weak June on the floor. As June tells Junpei how she probably is gonna die, Zero interrupts his touching moment with an announcement on the loudspeaker. Zero announces that this game is over. Junpei says that he will make it out alive with June. But Zero shoots down this idea by saying, "You can't because you chose the wrong path." Junpei responds questionably but with no idea what Zero means. Zero reaffirms that the game is over and the loser has been determined. Junpei says that he has not lost, but Zero quickly responds by saying that it's not Junpei who lost, but Zero. Junpei meets this with an urge to find Zero, so he runs outside the chapel, then immediately goes back inside to find June missing. While in a screaming fit, Junpei gets gassed by some white smoke and he was abducted with in the beginning of the game. And the ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Zero ending! Yep, this game has multiple endings, and to get the true ending, you need to go through the Zero ending first. Alright, we're going to do a shift, if you know what I mean, wink wink nudge nudge, and we're going to shift over to a new timeline. In this timeline, Ace, Clover, and Junpei just escaped the captain's room and found the chapel for the first time. To Junpei's surprise, there are 2 9 doors. This means that everyone could escape with the right combination. Unfortunately, any combination they have would leave 3 or 4 people behind. 7 offers to stay behind, but the group refuses to let this happen. As they say this, Santa pulls out a golden revolver and takes June hostage. Santa orders Ace and Lois to scan their numbers on the red. They do as commanded, and they go through the 9 doors Santa and June, while leaving Clover, Junpei, and 7 behind. Almost immediately after they leave Clover, Junpei, and 7, they hear some knocking within the coffin that is in the middle of the chapel. By accident, Junpei remembers the Zero ending timeline and how to open the coffin. Once the coffin is open, big surprise, Snake is inside. After a touching room between brother and sister, Clover gets Snake caught up on the current situation. While the group is trying to determine who faked Snake's death, Snake tells the group that he was unconscious ever since everyone split up to look for the Reds. Now with Snake, Clover, Junpei, and 7, they now have a digital route of 9 and they can go through the 9 door to chase Santa and the hostages. Before they leave, Junpei checks to see if the Zero bracelet still works and he asks Clover to scan it for him. Since in this timeline, Clover still has it and 7 never took it off her corpse. Clover, Junpei, and the Zero bracelet are able to open the 9 door. That means that the man they found dead in the captain's room is the real Zero. It doesn't work because a 0 is actually a 6, not a 0. The 0 on the bracelet is actually an O. Since the O bracelet is actually a 6 bracelet, everyone starts to question why there are 2 6 bracelets. Snake proposed the idea that the June's bracelet isn't a 6, rather an upside down 9. Clover then shows the group how the numbers on the bracelet don't mean anything and June was able to enter all those doors with the wrong digital route. Snake brings up the point that Santa specifically chose to bring Ace and Lois over 7 and Lois because his number isn't actually 3, it's actually a 0. So with this all in mind, Snake hypothesized that Santa could be 0. With little time to spare, however, the group has to go through the second 9 door. Once through the 9 door, the group find themselves in the library with another escape room to solve. Junpei gets reminded of the All Nice or Alice because how the coffin could be somewhere in the library. When Junpei gets a chance, he asks Snake more about the original Noner game because he participated in it 9 years ago. Snake agrees and they head to the upper deck of the library where Snake starts explaining. First, Snake was told by Zero to not tell anybody about the first Noner game because if he did, he would explode. Second, Snake explains that Ace's company, Cradle Pharmaceutical, was behind the original Noner game and how both him and Clover were a part of it. Both of them had the ability to use the morphogenic feild and use telepathy to send messages between one another. During the original Noner game, Clover was placed on the sending end at the replica model of Gigantic in Nevada, while Snake was on the real Gigantic on the receiving end. The goal for the experiment would be to have Clover send the puzzle solution telepathy to Snake to get the group of children on the Gigantic to escape. Junpei then asked Snake if there are only 16 kids in the experiment because that's what the news reported on. Snake says that including himself and Clover, there were definitely 18 kids in the experiment, and the 2 kids not reported on had no known relatives. Snake then follows up by saying that the 2 kids he's referring to were named Aoi and Akane, or Santa and June. Snake says that the girl named Akane was the only one to die during the experiment. She was killed by Ace, then when a detective, who is my boy 7, made his way onto the ship after tracking down Ace when he figured out the Cradle Pharmaceutical was behind the case of the 18 kidnapped children. After getting caught and thrown into the ship, 7 was able to make his way through an air vent to the incinerator to find 9 kids who were on the boat for a Noner game experiment. 5 of the kids open the 9 door in the incinerator, while 7 helps the little kid versions of Snake, Santa, and Akane, and even Lotus's daughter escape. Which, by the way, is why Ace tried to kill Snake because Snake knew of Ace's past. 7 and the kids make their way through the ship, and 7 notices that Akane has gone missing. He tells the other 3 kids to go on ahead while he finds Akane. But against his will, the 3 kids follow him anyway, and they find their way outside the incinerator door, with a witness, a younger Ace, throw Akane back into the incinerator. 7 and the kids desperately try to open the incinerator, but to no avail. So I know some of you are thinking, how is this possible? Could June's been playing the Noner game with us the entire time? Well, it's more morphogenic feild shit that will be easier to explain in a little bit. After enough time solving puzzles, Snake, Clover, Junpei, and 7 get inside the incinerator where they find June on the floor and Ace holding Lotus hostage against Santa's will. Ace forces Lotus to scan her bracelet on the red to open the 9 door in the incinerator. She does as she is demanded, and Ace scans his bracelet and the 9 bracelet as well. The door does not even open after numerous attempts have been made. While this is happening, 7 charges at Ace and takes him down. Junpei then makes Ace admit to his crimes during the notary game and adds that Ace is being manipulated by Zero to kill the other 3 people involved in the original notary game. Junpei then questions Santa if he's Zero, and Santa responds with saying he's just an assistant. The whole reason that the second notary game even happened was that Junpei could save Santa's little sister, which is Akane Kurashiki, or June. Mind-blowing. After this is said, Santa takes Ace's revolver and takes him and June hostage so they can open the 9th door. On the way out, Santa initiates the incinerator so Junpei's life can be in danger so he can access the morphogenic field to help a younger Akane escape the same situation. With 10 minutes remaining, Snake, Clover, Junpei, June, Seven, and Lotus's lives are all on the line. A computer monitor appears before both of them in both timelines. To turn off the incinerator, Junpei has to solve the puzzle within the time limit and send the answer to young Akane through the morphogenetic fields. When young June gets the right answer, she gets a string of numbers back to Junpei, which are 2 plus 4 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 equal 26. Junpei is at first confused, and then he realizes that that's the combination to open the third number 9 door. Because that door refused to open for Ace, it's not because it wasn't a 9 door, it's because the 9 was actually a lowercase q. With literally less than a minute to spare, Junpei demands that the rest of the group scans their bracelets on the red, and once done, the door finally opens. The door rushes out with literal seconds to spare to avoid a fiery death. Young Akane also makes it out because of Junpei's assistance, which makes it possible for her to be in the present timeline. The group makes a quick chase after Santa, June, and Ace, who have seemed to have fled the facility. While running up the world's longest spiral staircase, Seven and Lotus ask Junpei how he knew the Q door would open. Junpei then says that the hexadecimal root of Q is 26, and since 2 plus 4 plus 5 plus 7 plus 8 equals 26, they had the correct combination to escape. Once at the top of the staircase, they open a door to reveal that they weren't actually on the gigantic, rather Nevada testing site for the first notary game. They see a running car with Ace tied up in the back, and that was left by Santa and June so they could escape. Because their true intentions were just to keep June alive, not to actually kill anybody besides the 4 behind the actual notary game. Everyone gets in the car quickly to chase after June and Santa and question them even further, so the game ends on a cliffhanger where the group spots an Egyptian princess who looks an awful lot like Alice trying to hitchhike a ride, including the girl they all live happily ever after. Except the 9th man, that guy's fucking dead. There we go, it's finally done. Writing a plot synopsis for 2 timelines and making it thematically flow took me a while. If there was an upside to this, says that there are more endings, so I still haven't even talked about. So if you are all interested in looking at this game, I implore you to do so. There are a lot more endings and a lot more escape rooms I didn't even mention. Oh yeah, and Akane was 0. Let's move on.
The ketchup, the mustard, the salt, and the pepper. Put on the right, guys, we got no extra.
The gameplay for 999 is split between a visual novel and escape the room scenarios. Visual novels are explanatory enough. A character sprite appears on the top of the screen, while text appears on the bottom in a box. While there are times where you're asked a question or you need to make a decision, the visual novel parts of the game are just essentially cutscenes. For the Notary Games edition of 999, they added voice acting and text skipping, which is a nice bonus and makes the Notary Games edition the definitive edition of the game. Now, the escape rooms are a bit more tricky, so essentially you're trapped in a room and needing to escape. But how do you do that? Well, you click around your environment looking for anything you can to pick up. You can use these items to combine with other items to make new items to solve puzzles, or sometimes you have to use puzzles to solve to get items. Who knows? I know. Now, don't think that you're solving puzzles on your own. Counting everyone else besides the 9th man, there are 7 other characters you experience the fresh hell with. Depending on what group of people you go through what door determines what group of people chime in during your escape rooms. It's nice and adds some flavor text and helps you get to know your favorite characters more. I mean, when I first played the game, I chose to follow my boy 7 the entire time and his ending was gruesome. Anyways, added to the Notary Games edition also adds a flowchart to the game, so you can re-experience any story settings or escape rooms that you want. Surprisingly, in the DS original, there were no flowcharts, so if you wanted to get every ending, you had to play through the game 6 different times with no skipping text or cutscenes. Thankfully, that's gone, and getting every ending is even easier now. Just select the most recent tile to the tile you need, and boom, you'll have it unlocked in no time. Alright, that covers everything, so let's get to the final part.
Burgers is all we have in mind. We cook the best taste buds in mind. Now put it on the
999 is a staple when it comes to visual novels. This game knows how to hook you from the beginning and it keeps you focused and entertained throughout the entire ride. While it might get confusing or technical, the game does a great job explaining it with files or just by listening to the characters. The escape rooms in 999 are just the right amount of difficulty where it feels rewarding and doable without a guide, which is something I cannot say about the other 2 games in the series. The aha moments feel so rewarding and serve as another reason why you should play this game. I feel like each route could have been a little longer, maybe like 1 more escape room each would have made just the perfect length. What's sad is that this is something they could have done, just remove the 6-3 and the 2 door from the respective decisions, and boom, that could add another route for anybody to go through. Besides that, there's not much I can find wrong with this game. It's my 3rd favorite game of all time, just behind Persona 5 The Royal and The World Ends With You. With all this in mind, I decided to give 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors a solid 9 out of 10. 999 will always be a fun game to return to just to waste afternoon or to get the most out of it. I can't recommend it enough. If you do pick it up though, get the Notary Games edition that was released on PS4, Vita, and Steam. I tried the DS original on an emulator before making this video, and it's fine, but the No No Games edition is just so much better. You also get a port of the Vita version of VLR, so the No No Games edition, which is just the definitive way to play both of these games. Stay tuned next time on the Zero Escape Retrospective. We'll be looking at Virtue's Last Reward, 999's direct sequel. As always, I am Marabo, and stay safe.
Hey, loser! Run stew! Pay up or move out!
Oh shit!
Oh.